All right, that was the GST Council meet. But tell you what, we are joined by Mahesh Jaising, partner Deloitte India, joining us right now to weigh in on the GST meet. Hi, Mahesh, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me over.
Mahesh, quickly, we just got done with the GST Council meet. To tell us what was firstly the key highlights for you of this meet, and then I'll come to you with my questions.
Well, it's never a dull moment and a lot of positives. I would put the announcements into two buckets, one from a rate of tax perspective and the other which are clarifications. A big set of clarifications that seem to come out in terms of the magnitude of its positive impact are clarifying about advertising services, data hosting services to be export, and also on the airline issue, which we read that there are demands close to thousands of crores. And I think there's a reiteration from the GST Council that when regardless of the magnitude of the dispute, if the technical position is to give a relief rather than precipitate an issue over litigation, I think that's an overarching theme that stood out to me. Having said that, very material and important announcements today on the rate of tax. This was coming at the backdrop of the 53rd Council meeting where we had a lot of clarifications. So one didn't expect far too many legal clarifications, but whatever the sound bites we have are nothing but positive. I'm happy to even cover the rate of tax related announcements in a couple of seconds.
Right, sure, you can go on about that, but one question about the clarification. The one thing that I was just reading through is the clarification that came in on the online gaming, which when it was imposed, the gaming industry was pretty upset about the tax that was levied on them. However, the clarification of the revenue of online gaming increased by 412% in the last 6 months. That was a clarification that came from the FM. So going forward, I don't think the gaming industry can expect a rate cut because this is something that they have been requesting for.
That's true. There was an expectation when the announcement happened that it ought not to be on a gross collection basis and it should be rolled back. And therefore, there was that one expectation, and they believe that the industry will get significantly impacted. There's another expectation which I want to talk about. So on the first expectation of taxation, I think the Honorable Finance Minister has given data to demonstrate that despite the tax increase, or the base of tax increase, the tax collections have gone up and therefore nothing fundamentally incorrect. The more important point is I think the industry is still looking forward to a clarification of sorts for the past period. And I think that's the part which has a little bit of an angle with the legal matters in the courts, but that may need a far more elaborate discussion. But yes, it's safe to say what you mentioned now, that given the clear reiteration of the tax collections only increasing, that perhaps this taxation is here to stay in the near future. I don't know about medium to long term.
So I'm sure that's the news that hasn't probably gone down well with the gaming community, because I remember speaking to one of the the top players, and they were looking forward to this tax reduction, but clearly in the near future that is not going to be the case. But tell us, you were talking about some of the positives that have come in, and you were going to talk to us about that. Do tell us what has been the positives for you.
Yes, I think one of the material positives, again from an overarching keeping the rates of tax aside, is about B2C GST e-invoicing, which means that you will be moving more to a paperless environment, and it's a great Go Green initiative. It's a welcome step for industry to avoid printing an invoice for every shipment. We need to see what how the rollout plan is, but there's already a lot of spade work that's been done over the last year or so, and therefore I, for one, was expecting this, but honestly not this soon, and that's a welcome step, which industry will appreciate the Go Green step. From a rate of tax perspective, a reduction in tax on the cancer drugs, on the namkeens and farsan items, rate reductions and clarifications around real estate for the PLC charges, and also exemptions between unregistered dealers on metal scrap. And last but not least, I think there was few other announcements on the rate of taxes as well, which clearly do help a futuristic map. I think these are my takeaways, but I think on an overall, from a roadmap perspective, it's a continued journey. You see GOMs that have been announced and report cards being presented before the GST Council on the real estate, amongst others, and the rate rationalization. All eyes are on that, because it's an extremely democratized process. So it's not about one set of decision making. It's a process on a lot of sensitive matters, including on taxation on medical and health insurance, as well as how to deal with certain other aspects, have actually moved on. IGST has moved to certain groups for a democratized decision making. So to me, these are very reiteration of the fundamentals of the GST Council framework being very rock solid. So that's my biggest takeaway today.
Right. Mahesh, as you rightly pointed out, that this has been a reiteration of, what, they've been talking about. In fact, we were expecting something on the insurance space, but two new GOMs that have been decided, including one on medical and health insurance, and the GOM are likely to look into the matter and come up with a report in October, and then the decision will be taken in the November meeting. What are you penciling in from that?
I mean, it's tough to hazard a guess on this, but services has all along been at 18% or exempt, with few services at different slabs. I think it's easier said than done to get a consensus on an overall rate rationalization. It's been a journey. I think my key takeaway on the GOM for medical and health insurance is there seems to be a sprint that wants to be run to take this to a logical conclusion. Needless to say, the industry is asking for lower rates to be able to penetrate into what is a largely underinsured market. And I do think from a common man that will help if and when that happens. There are certain dynamics about an inverted duty structure that we need to see. But if I were to hazard a guess, I do think that, industries which may come true given the track record of a lot of other announcements that have been taken in the larger good. And that's been the consistent theme across the last 54 meetings.
All right, Mahesh, thank you so much for coming and weighing in. We thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. We will have to let you go on that note. But thank you for your time. All right. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Rasha. Thank you so much for tuning in.